your source for everything paranormal. Para X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Merry meet and merry part, bright the cheeks and warm the heart. For tread the circle thrice about, to keep unwelcome spirits out. Bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. These 8 words the read fulfill, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. Now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Well, merry meet again everyone, once again. Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. My guests tonight are the hosts of Channeling History here on the Para X Radio Network on Sunday evenings, Barry and Connie Strohm. And sometimes when he comes to visit, he does channeling, but tonight we're going to talk about his new book called Messages from God. As always, chat room questions and comments are welcome, and if you're listening live and want to join us, come over to paraxradionetwork.com. Barry, Connie, hello.
Good evening. Thank you for having us.
Well, that was long. I thought you were going to do a longer introduction.
What, I caught you off guard?
Yeah, I was going to sleep.
Well, good. I know Connie pinches you when you do that, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah,
I got this, Marla.
Yeah, I know. She's got my back. Yes, that's true. Well, before we get started, I want to mention that this is probably the first time I've ever had a show that contained a book that I haven't read. But for those of you, Barry knows this, but for those who are listening in, my guest for this week had to reschedule, and while it had been a while since Barry and Connie were my guests, I thought it was right time for them to get here, so I asked if they were free, and they were, and I honestly didn't know about the new book, but we'll find out a lot about it tonight, so everything fell into place, and it was good timing on short notice. So, I'm just going to be listening and learning about the book with everybody else, I guess. But one thing I know is that the entire book was channeled. So, Barry, tell us about how the book came to be.
Well, we do a Saturday or a Wednesday morning podcast. It's called A Weekly Message from Jesus. And through this long process, I got a channeled message that he wanted to speak. So we set up this podcast and we started doing these on Wednesday mornings. And basically, I say a couple words and then I just channel the words of Jesus. It usually lasts about 12, 14 minutes. And he does these incredible messages. I never have any idea what he's going to say when we start these things. He may give me the name of what he's going to do, but that's the extent of it. So once we start to channel, it's strictly his words that are coming through. We've done it now for, I guess this was the 84th week. So I took the first 61 of these channeled messages, translated them, transcribed them, did what we needed to do, and we put these messages into book form. Big book, it's about 85,000 words, but it becomes a wonderful devotional for people. It is just. I wrote a little bit of an introduction, and then every other word is just something are the channeled words of God. So when we say that it's really his words, it's 100%. I've left all of the all the shows. They're all on my YouTube channel. So you can actually listen as we receive these messages. We had to change a bit of the wording around because sometimes when people are talking, it's not exactly clear when you read it, when you go back and read it. So, but the book is 95% the words of God. So.
And I want to say something because some people, we were talking the other day, and some people, well, that book sounds like God wrote it, but you had a middleman here in the guise of Jesus, because so somebody was saying, well, God or Jesus is not God, but he's probably the guy that speaks for him. Is that correct?
No, Jesus was God incarnate. Jesus is the human form of God. So when I use the word Jesus and God kind of interchangeably because it's the same energy, but Jesus was simply the human form of God.
So, oh my God, I'm going to sound so stupid here, but I'm going after it anyway.
Go for it.
Okay, so I see God as a supreme being, and only one of them, the supreme being.
Okay, he is the supreme energy. Yes.
Okay, so then if Jesus is also God, then there's more than one supreme being?
No. Actually, when Jesus walks the earth, the energy of God was incarnate with Jesus.
Okay. Sometimes you have to talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old in certain things.
Yeah, right.
Now, this is very difficult to understand because humans don't know anything. His energy is in the entire galaxy, and his energy is with every being. So he could have his energy totally in Jesus, but he still had energy that was around the world. So, I mean, while Jesus walked the earth, people could still pray to his energy in heaven. It's very difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the only time that God returns to earth in an incarnate form, and that was in the form of Jesus. Okay. Now he sends back his other messengers to formulate the other religions. Muhammad, for instance, we've done 6 different channelings of Muhammad, and we're going to be the next book that I do will be the channelings of Muhammad, and it'll be all of his words. And he in the Muslim faith, God is Allah. Mm-hmm. In our faith, or in the Christian faith, we refer to him as God, but you can refer to him any way you want. He can be the source. However, there's one energy, and he has sent back his messengers to create all of the great faiths. I mean, he sends Buddha back as a messenger, sends Muhammad.
But it's still one supreme being with a lot of different names then.
Correct.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Just curious about that, because it was like, I'm not sure. We get into these discussions, and I'm not the best one to deal with, but.
Yeah, I didn't. When we were making up the name for the podcast, I thought it would be that it would really throw people for a loop if I said a weekly message from God. So instead I just used a weekly message from Jesus, but Jesus was God incarnate, so it really is a message from God.
Okay. Well,
it's interchangeable. In my mind, it's interchangeable.
Right. So there is only one, but they come by different names. That's easier to figure it out that way. And I'm not even going to get into the Holy Spirit now, because we're going to talk about your book. Someday we can talk about the Holy Spirit, because I'm mixed up on that too. But what can I tell you? All right. So you took all the different things from the shows and turned it into a book. And it is a big book, as you said. When did you figure out you better stop and maybe keep something for book 2.
Well, I thought he was going to stop basically after a year, but he's going strong, and I know that there's going to be a volume 2 of these messages, because he brings a very, very simple message. I mean, basically what it comes down to is do unto others as you'd have do unto you, and spreading love. And so you take that simple message and you wonder, now, how can you do a different message about this each week for 100, 120 weeks? Well, he does it. It's every week he comes at this from a different angle. He uses the same basically simplistic message of love and getting along, and he comes at it differently. This week, he referred to God as being this maestro over this immense orchestra that he has ultimate control of, but he tries to lead. So, I mean, every week it's different. I mean, and some of these things are just great. I mean, there's a chapter in there about the fog of life, that the evil energies are the fog, and he's the light on the path that helps guide you through the fog. But I'm doing the final revision right now, and we should be ready to go to print with it next week. And I'm rereading all these chapters, and I'm just amazed at how he does this differently every week. Well, of course, he is God, so I guess.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, okay. That was yeah, pretty okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because you have a subhead for the book, God, messages from God, and then you have something underneath that, and on the top of the cover you say something too, because it has to do with timing and what's going on here, right?
Yes.
I mean, read the subhead and what you wrote on the book, and then people will explain.
Well, it's God's messages for the modern world, and then it's messages for this time of great need. And I mean, you just have to look around to see what's taking place. You've got wars going on right now. You have weapons of mass destruction. You have an idiot in Russia that's threatening to end the world. I mean, you got all these things going on. So there's a lot of people that are very bothered. There's a lot of individuals that are troubled and worried about all these things. And he is trying to bring you messages of comfort.
Does he, and next time you do the channeling and talk to him, I'm just curious, is this the worst time the world has ever seen for a number of reasons, or was what was?
No, I mean, this is bad times have just been repeated throughout history. The Romans, I mean, they were very brutal with people. Look what they did to Christians. Mm-hmm. You have the Dark Ages. You had the plagues. Mm-hmm. There is something continuously going on throughout history that has been bad. He's been sending messengers back to try to guide people through these times, and basically since humans could stand upright and before. World War II. Look at all the people that were killed there, the Nazis, all the poor Jewish people that were annihilated and tortured. Mm-hmm. But the difference is that he has seen fit to give humans more advanced technologies. If you look at the last 100 years, we've made more technological advances than mankind did since its inception. Mm-hmm. So he's made the decision that basically it's time for humans to fish or cut bait. He is now starting to give them technological knowledges. Now, what we know at this point is minimal compared to what the other alien cultures have. But he is giving us the technologies where it's going to make or break humans. use these technologies to learn to get along, or some idiot can use the technologies for weapons of mass destruction and basically end human evolution. We were channeling with him, and he made the statement. He said, the humans on this planet are very, very young culture. There's been many, many other young cultures that have failed because they always have free will. If they choose to use that free will to follow my words, they advance, they do well. And there's other planets where cultures have been there for millions and millions of years, and they know how to get along, and they lead this wonderful existence. When souls need to learn lessons, they basically become humans, and they come back here because it's a young culture and things are really screwed up here. He's told us that humans specifically have a relatively short lifespan, because if they're not following their life plan, he wants them to pass so that their souls can return and they can do another life plan and try again, be judged, and be told what they need to know to truly evolve. We've been doing this now. I can't even tell you how many hours that we've channeled with the spirits on the other side. Mm-hmm. We've got over 320 videos up on YouTube now. All the radio shows are up. We do the Wednesday morning message. They're all on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And we do another thing where we work with Reverend Bill Eggleston on Sunday mornings, where I come in and channel the Holy Spirit for a sermon for him. Mm-hmm. We've been doing the lesser-known disciples. A couple of weeks ago, we did Philip the Apostle. We did Bartholomew 2 weeks ago. And this week, we did Simon the Zealot. And these energies, very little is known in the Gospels about them, simply because other Gospels were used. When Constantine has Nicaea, the conference at Nicaea, where they discuss the Gospels, there were over 300 Gospels presented, and you wind up with 27 in the Bible. So a lot of these disciples, the writings were never used. They were the writings about them were incomplete, and many of them are forgotten. But these little-known disciples are utterly incredible. The last three messages on Sunday mornings have been spectacular from these guys. But they're all working basically on the same theme. They all speak of love and getting along, and they all speak of troubled times. And it's just, we're coming at the same message from so many different directions now.
But what about people that are not religious at all? And, there are many, and so they're not going to listen to somebody that is religious because they just don't believe. Maybe they don't believe in God. Maybe they're, for any number of reasons, because, the human race is really good at shooting themselves in the foot for whatever reason.
You are right about that.
And so it's just, how can he get the word out to everybody when a lot of people won't listen? And maybe those people that don't listen are the people that are going to make trouble.
And as Shakespeare said, there's the rub.
Mm-hmm.
People have got to make their own decisions. When a human soul returns, it's born and its mind is wiped clear of all things that it knew when it was on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
It has to learn all of these lessons. There's people out there in primitive cultures, for instance, that never ever heard of God. But they live their lives, they do good, raise families, and they're greeted well when they return to heaven. You don't necessarily have to believe in God. You don't want to speak against God. That's a distinct no-no.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to follow a religion. You do not need sacraments to assure that you're going to go to heaven. It comes down to a very personal thing. Just like your belief structure is different, but it's a great structure. You live a good life, you help others, do charity, show love, reduce anger. You're living a good life. And that's basically the bottom line of what everyone does. One of the first pages of the book, we say that God, and this was part of one of the messages, he said, if you follow the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, you would never have to ask me for forgiveness. It's that simple. People, Eskimos that have never had interaction with any of the religions, if they lead a good life, that's what they're sent back to do. He keeps saying it's common sense. Why would anybody want to show anger towards someone else as they show anger towards you? Why would you want to show hatred towards somebody else and that drives that person to show hatred? There's no common sense in that.
Nobody said we had common sense in a lot of different ways.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, but all right, so maybe all cultures don't believe in God or religions that we know of, but don't all cultures have some supreme being or some kind of thing that they pray to? There's a belief system about something?
Yes. All cultures have got different beliefs. You might believe in Mother Nature, whatever, the Holy Spirit, Source. I mean, there is one supreme energy.
Mm-hmm.
However you want to refer to him.
Yeah. So, but I think for us, I mean, three biggest religions are so worldwide known. I mean, except in, jungle countries or something where, they don't have any kind of technology or any way to get in touch with people, other people, except, the towns or the little cities around there. So they kind of make up their own rules, I'm sure. And maybe they're all a little bit different for each one, but, it's hard to think that maybe they would have anything other than peaceful getting along with each other.
Well, the Catholic Church controlled the Gospels for, 1,400 years?
Mm-hmm.
Until Luther comes along with the Reformation. There were absolutely no one wrote down the words of Jesus as he spoke them. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking to the uneducated, the poor. He had some people that could read and write, Matthew for one of them. They made notes, but nobody was a stenographer. Nobody was recording it. Essentially, the Gospels, the first known early writings are like 2 generations after the crucifixion.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the writings are based on what people remembered that he said. As the people that wrote the Gospels get involved, they decide, well, this is too simple. Nobody's going to believe this. So let's exaggerate it. Let's have him walk on water. Let's have him feed 10,000 people with fish. Let's do things let's exaggerate the miracles. Now, he actually performs more miracles than are recorded in the Gospels.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the miracles, and he does the healings. He heals Mary, does all the miracles. He does most of the miracles that are written about in the Gospels.
Mm-hmm.
But in most instances, they're widely exaggerated. And if you read the Gospels, they're so complicated. I mean, you got theologians arguing back and forth about what he meant here, what he meant there. Well, he spoke simple words. If he would have talked in parables, those people would have thrown rocks at him because nobody would have understood it.
Mm-hmm.
So the Gospels and all the writings, and this is in all religions, it's not just in Christianity and the Bible. The Quran is incredibly complicated to understand. Any of the holy guidebooks.
Well, the Torah, for example, there are rabbis and people that are very, very religious, like the Hasidic Jews, that spend their lifetime, day and night, holding up and reading the Torah and rocking back and forth, and then trying to understand, and then the guy next to him might have a different interpretation than this guy. I mean, they spend their whole lives just trying to make heads or tails out of the Torah, maybe for themselves, not for anybody else, but they're trying to understand it. And the Torah is written as simply kind of as the Bible in some ways, but it's interpretation. So somebody was on my show a long time ago and was talking about those who wrote the Bible. I think they were monks or some kind of clergy back then. And they said that they were writing from what they're hearing, stories that have been passed down from generation to generation orally. And so they said, how can you actually believe some of this stuff that they're writing? Because they're interpreting something and it might not be the way it was written. And then whoever read it might have interpreted it another way. So it's really difficult with that strange interpretations. Nobody knows for sure what to think. And maybe if they don't like what they hear, they interpret it in their own way to make it comfortable for them, kind of thing. It's a big thing.
It's a quagmire, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
The perfect example. King James decides that he's going to do his version of the Bible. Mm-hmm. So now you have Jesus speaking with thys and thous. Well, I guarantee you, Jesus never spoke Old English.
No, he didn't.
No. So you have these people that swear that every word of the Gospels is correct. Mm-hmm. Well, duh, it can't be. He didn't speak Old English, for one thing. And a lot of the interpretations are incorrect. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's a shame what has been done to his words through the years, and that's really the message that he wants to bring out with these books. My third book back was Channeling His Life, where we went through all the details and truth about his life. Mm-hmm. Because you in the Bible you learn about his birth. There's one little thing in there, a stupid story about when he's 12 years old and his parents leave him in the temple and forget about him for 3 days, which never took place. and then you learn about his ministries for 3 years and his death. Mm-hmm. But the whole central part of his life there's nothing written about it. Well, the reason is he leads a normal life, gets married, has children until he does his ministries. But my book, Channeling the Life of Jesus, tells the true story. We channel Joseph, we channel Mary, he tells about it, and we go through everything about his life, right through the resurrection. Mm-hmm. Then the last book that I did, we channeled him and the Holy Spirits, where we started with Moses, John the Baptist, go through a lot of the people that were around him, actually finish up with chapters with Mother Teresa, and the last chapter was Billy Graham. Mm-hmm. And all these spirits, now that they're on the other side, speak about his life and his teachings. And now this is the third one based on true channelings of Jesus. And in this one, we bring you the true messages of God. So they've laid this whole foundation with us through the years in these earlier channelings, the writings we did before. everything, I mean, this is my 8th book, and it took 7 before to really lay the foundation for this one.
You're a man of patience. And since you are, and I'm chuckling, and Connie's chuckling too about you being a man of patience.
It's beyond chuckling, dear. It's outright laughter.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm chuckling because I'm a polite host. But anyway, we're going to take a break. So everybody sit tight, and we will be back in a couple of minutes.
Cauldron will be right back, so don't go away. If you end up with webbed feet, remember, you've been warned.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Juarez with Cat Paranormal of Minnesota.
And I'm Jerry Ayers with Supernatural Investigators of Minnesota. And together, we are The Calling. Every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on ParaXRadioNetwork.com.
If you're looking for a truly unique podcast experience, we have you covered. Spirit Bayou with CJ Dunham airs live from the Third Coast in Southeast Texas on Tuesday and Fridays at midnight Eastern Time, covering Creole folklore and folk magic to strange paranormal activity to new equipment for the field. CJ Dunham is a Catholic swamp witch, a devotee to our Mother Mary in the Trinity, a true believer in our Lord, the Holy Ghost, and Christ. Peace be with your spirit and the spirits by you.
Hey everyone, it's Marla. If you like tonight's episode of Stirring the Cauldron and the archive podcast as well, take a look at the show's YouTube channel and check out the dozens of shows that are there just waiting to be heard. New shows are added each week, and while you're there, why not subscribe? It's free. And if you click on that tiny little bell icon at the top of the page, you'll be notified when new shows are available. Just go to youtube.com and then type in Stirring the Cauldron Para X, and the link will appear. Just like magic.
Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Barry and Connie Strohm are my guests this week, and we're talking about his new book, Messages from God. And, one more thing about, we were talking that people interpret things in a different way. And I always find it really amusing when you see some horrible criminal on the news or in the papers or, a picture, they're always wearing a crucifix. And their interpretation of the Bible is way different than anybody else's, and they stick to it. They think that they're doing the right things, and I'm always kind of like shaking my head about that. What do you think?
Well, they're not doing the right thing. And then I can guarantee for them that wearing a crucifix is not going to help.
But they are such good people wearing that crucifix. They don't do wrong because what they're doing is right, and that's because the Bible told them so.
Depends which Bible, I guess. I don't know. Well, you can. The Gospels are so complex. You can interpret a lot of different ways.
Or you can turn it to your liking and make it sound good.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, actually, in our last message from Jesus this week, he addressed that situation where someone will say, I did this very prayerfully. And you know darn well they didn't. But they did what they thought was the good thing for them.
Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know, it just kind of, it makes me laugh when I see that because it's, oh my God, you're doing hateful things and yet you're preaching the gospel. This doesn't compute.
No, not at all. The nastiest emails that we get are from people that believe that every word of the gospel is correct. They tell us, no, they will never, ever listen to what we say in our message. But they'll come in and they say, you're talking to Satan. Satan's leading you. These are the words of Satan. And I'll say, have you listened to the messages? In all the messages we've done, they've only been basically talking about getting along, showing love, doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. But they are firmly convinced that the messages that that we're bringing to them are evil. And, when they say, tell me every word's of the Gospels are correct, I said, would you mind explaining to me how Jesus speaks in Old English? And they don't have a good answer for that one, but what's logic, Mm-hmm. Has very little to do with some things.
I don't know. I mean, it just kind of makes me weird. Because, people think that they're doing the right thing. Some people will think in order to get a child to be quiet, they slap their kids. Now, how does that work to quiet a kid? You know what I mean? But they think, they're raised by, if you hit somebody, that's how you're going to shut them up or make them listen to you or something. Physical violence is the answer.
And they're going to grow up thinking that that's quite all right.
Yeah. And
so they will repeat that behavior.
Exactly. So, it's just, I'm not totally cynical, but I just can't see everybody at some point getting along with each other. There's just so many wrong things that go on to keep us from that.
Well, for one thing, if we don't wipe everyone off the earth with a weapon of mass destruction, there's no time limit to it. I mean, he tells us repeatedly that the advanced cultures follow his words and get along and are extremely happy. And he says that all of those cultures at some time went through the growth phases of what we're going through. And I agree. As you look at the things that are going on around us right now, it's like there's no hope.
All right.
But there is.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, but it just came to my mind. So God is the supreme being. Now, he should be able to know what's going on in the future. He should be able to know because he's God. He knows it all.
Well, so, he knows what's going to be. He knows the future is a very complex thing because it's based on what takes place now. Decisions today change the future. Mm-hmm. So he sees all of these different possibilities in the future. So he knows whether we're going to make it or not in the long run. Mm-hmm. But he's never going to tell us. I mean, he keeps trying. As he tells us, he says, every great culture, every great civilization has failed. The Romans failed. The Byzantine, all of them. Everybody has failed up to this point. It's because people let greed and power take over their free will. And when they do that, they affect others, and it sets off a chain reaction. Mm-hmm. We've been really experimenting with this channeling thing, and we've been doing roundtable discussions now on the show with 2 and 3 spirits at a time. Mm. Yeah, it's interesting.
Trying to round up wild cats.
Yes, it is. Well, actually, it's been much more orderly than we thought. But we did a show where we had John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and Alexander Hamilton on. Mm-hmm. And we threw out discussion questions for each one of them to comment on the same question. And it was really interesting because these guys obviously had a lot of disagreements when they were doing it. But what they all said was that God was influencing the decisions of the founding fathers to create a government that could last indefinitely if they continue to follow his commands. Now, the Constitution has to be modernized in certain areas, but the basic teachings that the country was created under God, if the people continue to follow that, then that guidelines can make the United States the exception and can allow the country to exist far into the future, unlike what's happened to other cultures. But if you look at what's happening, we're seeing a lot of the same developments that took place in all the other empires. Mm-hmm. You're seeing individuals accumulating incredible wealth in political positions. You're seeing a lot of them, all they're interested in is personal power. You can actually see things changing as you grow away from the founding fathers. Keep in mind that there were no political parties in the beginning.
I was just going to bring that up, mm-hmm. that all of a sudden you get the one side and then the other side. I mean, why did it have to split up to begin with? Why couldn't everybody kind of get along then and kind of, work it out? Why does there have to be a yin and a yang, except probably there is in everything in the universe?
Well, the whole idea is compromise. That you take everyone's opinions and you come up with something in the middle that makes sense and something that everybody's happy with. I mean, now we've got a system where 50% of the people are in total anger and 50% are elated. So it seems as though we've grown away from the idea of compromise. And compromise is the key to getting along. No one can enforce their will on everyone. There's going to be a time that those people are going to become dissatisfied, and that's when the splits take place.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat room. She says, how does this gel with the Marian apparitions? Yeah.
With the what?
Marian apparitions.
I'm not familiar with them.
Okay.
Are you?
No. I don't know much. It's probably something I should know.
I mean, I see apparitions all the time, but I never saw one named Marian, so I don't know.
Lily, if you want to kind of explain, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, it's going back to, the separation. Everybody people will go with blinders on, especially in this day and age. Well, maybe it's always been, but they always have blinders on. Oh, okay. The Marian apparitions is the channeling of the Virgin Mary.
Oh yeah. Well, Mary has appeared. I mean, we channel with Mary all the time. We can basically talk to her anytime, but she has appeared. She is attempting. She's attempting to spread God's words. I mean, that's what she's done all her life. Mary's an incredible soul energy. When she comes through for us, I mean, it's just as powerful as can be. And when I'm channeling her, I can see her, so she's real. Her energy is absolute. I mean, it's incredible. We always channel her when we get into the Christmas holidays. When we're doing our special shows, she comes on. She's also come on when we've talked about the crucifixion, because she was present at that. You can feel the terrible emotion in her voice when she speaks about that. But no, Mary's very real.
All right. She said here, and she said things that I'm not going to be able to pronounce, I don't think. But she said, this has been going on since about 1865, allegedly. Fatima Garabandal.
Fatima. She appeared once at Fatima.
Okay. Akita, Maria Esperanza, and Medjugorje. I can't even say that one. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. So
she's very careful about how and why she appears, but she definitely does. I mean, I'm not aware of her doing it since Fatima, but it's all possible. I mean, she certainly doesn't check in with me when she's going to show up.
Yeah. Okay. I know that you've talked to her many times, and yeah. Well, I don't think there's too many people you haven't talked to by now.
No, we've been. We're coming up on our 2-year anniversary for channeling history, and I'm really starting to run out of historical people. I mean, after most of the lists you see of historical folks are top 100. So now we're doing the group things. As I say, this week on channeling history, we're going to have Justice Scalia and Ginsburg, and I'm sure we're going to have to do that a second week because there's no way they're going to get through all the questions we have. Then we're going to do Reagan and Gorbachev.
That should be interesting.
Yeah. No, we've got a couple of these roundtable things. Actually, that's probably where we're going to be winding up rather than be doing these individual interviews. But the ones we've done have been incredibly interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, I mean, when you think about it, you're talking about Reagan and Gorbachev, I mean, they probably got a lot to say on the other side since they're seeing it from a different angle now,
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Oh, everything changes when they get over. Believe me.
Yeah, so maybe, well, I've heard, from people that there are certain spirits that never want to see each other again, and they don't have to, I mean, you can hold grudges because, after all, we're human, and they say that the DNA travels each an incarnation of ours, so we probably do hold.
Yeah, what he tells us is that hatred is a very, very bad thing, but it's okay to dislike. Just don't hate. He says there's so many things going on in the world today that you dislike, but hatred, once that gets into your heart, it's like a cancer, and you cannot help but pass on hatred. But they still dislike each other on the other side. There's definitely spirits that still avoid others. Mm-hmm. I mean, we ask quite often. We'll ask a spirit who they hang out with over there, or if they had this enemy. Mm-hmm. Well, like Hamilton and Aaron Burr. Mm-hmm. They don't. They avoid each other over there.
Still holding the grudge, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, they are perfect.
That's why they call them free spirits. They can do whatever they want, right?
Both sides. You got free will over there and over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of amazing when you think about it, and sometimes, as you said earlier, when we come back, we've erased everything that we knew because we're not supposed to remember it. But then people that have open minds understand that we did at one time know something, and probably those are the people that are more open-minded and more metaphysically inclined and more believing in everything. But then there are those with the blinders and the wall, and it's I don't know. We just want to throw our hands up in the air and say, okay, we can't concentrate sometimes on the whole world because we have to concentrate on our own little worlds, our people and everything before others. I don't know.
Yeah, as I say, I'm in the final proofing of all these messages. And one thing he says is, the average individual is not going to change the world, but they can help others. They can affect other individuals. And the more other individuals that you affect and they help someone else, and it spreads. But he said, you got to do what you can do.
I think people, though, listen more not to what somebody's telling them, but they find out with something happening to themselves. Like things that could have been avoided, for example. Somebody didn't take a shot that needed to be shot, and then they caught like polio or whatever it was, or whatever. They find out too late that they were wrong. But then it's always like bedside kind of too late, deathbed kind of thing. and that they don't. Some people just won't listen to anybody except themselves. And like I said, something happens to them. They realize that what they were thinking or doing was wrong, but then it's too late to right the wrong.
Well, if they die through it, they get to go over on the other side and come back and have another shot at it. They just got to start over.
Yeah, and they won't listen the second time either. I don't know. I'm just, it's just frustrating to see what goes on in our world, and it must be frustrating for those on the other side who can't really do much. And I'm not just talking about Jesus or God or anything, but I mean our relatives, our friends, our loved ones. They see things, and they must absolutely be frustrated because, they know it's coming and they know it could be avoided.
Yeah, but one thing that they're very careful of is they're not going to affect your free will.
No, they can't. Yeah, I know.
No. I mean, and people, they say, well, we pray for this and it didn't happen. Uncle John had cancer. We prayed and he died. Well, that's his life plan. If you pray for something that is going to change an individual's life plan, that prayer's in all probability not going to come true. If, prayers can be answered. But if they make a major change in somebody's life plan, they cannot be answered. So.
Well, they also say that prayers aren't answered because they're not supposed to be. It's something for your own good that you're not getting what you're asking for. That kind of like the universe or whoever is up there is saying, this is stupid. You don't need that. If you do that, harm will come to you, so you don't get your prayer answered.
Yeah. No.
It's answered. It's just that the answer is no.
There you go.
Because it's for your best. I mean, I have discovered through my life that there were some things that I really, really wanted and didn't get. And then down the road, I discovered, it's a good thing I didn't do that, or a good thing I didn't get that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, prayers bring guidance. They will try to guide you back to your life plan. If you're praying for something that leads you away from that life plan, then you're not going to have the guidance, and you're up to your personal decision, free will. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing system. I mean, the more we learn about it, the more I'm going, holy mackerel, how can this all be? But it is.
It's amazing. I mean, it really is, because free will, I think, sometimes is a test of humanity.
Oh, absolutely.
You're correct.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what it is.
That's Yeah, no, he said I admitted I created evil. Without evil, there wouldn't be a test for you, for your free will. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's no evil in heaven, but on earth there is evil energies. It's real, and it's meant as a test for you. It's how you respond to it.
And a lot of those evil energies are just coming from human beings and the way that they've been brought up, or for whatever reason they're angry and they want to, do things that they shouldn't be doing to other people or whatever. It's crazy. It really is, because free will is good. I mean, I like free will. I'd be able to do what I want to. And yeah, sure, I've tripped myself up a few times and learned the hard way.
Yeah, we all have that.
Yeah, but we have to do that. We need the free will to make the mistakes, I guess, to make it so the next time, hopefully, we're not as dumb as we were this time around, and get better with each time. But then there are spirits that don't want to come back. I've talked to people that said, my life on this earth is so horrible. It's been horrible from day one. It's not getting any better. When I get over there, I know I can come back. I don't want to come back ever.
And that is their right.
Yeah, they can do that. But most of them find out that if they want to advance in the realms, they have to learn. And perhaps that miserable life that they're having is exactly the life plan they needed. When they get over and say, oh, man, look, I learned all this. Now I can have a good one next time. So
and maybe they will listen to those on the other side, because your thought process is you're not thinking like a human being. You're thinking like a spirit. So
Exactly. It all changes when you get over. It's all good.
Yeah, but still, I'm pretty sure that people that were jerks in this life didn't grab the horn and a halo and wings. I don't think that happens. The minute you get there, the bad people just don't turn into angels.
Well, he keeps saying that karma is very real.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he says a lot of things, but
yeah, he says, and we're saying a lot of things too. I want you to tell everybody where they can get the book, when it's going to come out, and when they can listen to you on Sunday nights and all that good stuff. Your books, anything you want to say, go for it.
Okay. All the books are on Amazon. The new book we're targeting October the 15th. It'll be coming out in softcover and Kindle edition ebook. And the target is the 15th of October. And I think we're going to make it the way it looks. YouTube channel. We do everything we do winds up on our YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm. It's all free, just the same as Marla's is. You can go listen to her shows, go listen to ours. Our radio show on Para X is on Sunday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Each week we channel a different historic figure. This week is going to be really interesting because we're going to have Scalia and Ginsburg on, two as diametrically opposed people with their interpretation of the Constitution, but yet the best of friends. So it's going to be very interesting. We're going to cover a lot of things with them. A couple of weeks we'll be doing Reagan and Gorbachev. Mm-hmm. We're going to do Kennedy and Khrushchev. We got a lot of very interesting things we'll be doing on Channeling History on Sunday nights.
Okay, and as you said, the podcasts are available if they can't go live. But when they do go live, they can ask questions to the spirits, and so that's a good reason to be sitting in the chat room. That's the only place you can ask questions.
Yes. Now we always try to put as many of when we do Channeling History, we come in with about 55 prepared questions because that's what it takes to run an hour. Mm-hmm. But we try to bring in any decent questions off of the chat room. We get a lot of people that are there every week. They have intelligent questions, and we try to use as many as we can. And it also helps show that I'm not reading a script because we have no idea what questions are coming.
There you go. They're throwing them at you. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you guys for showing up at the last minute. I really do appreciate it. And I'm still surprised. It was meant to be because I didn't know you had a new book out. You didn't tell me. So it all fell right into place just like it was supposed to. So thank you.
Marla, nothing's a coincidence.
I know that. I know that well. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. So everybody, thank you for listening in. And until next time, everybody, blessed be and merry meet again. Good night.
This has been another edition of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Be sure to tune in next week at the same time for another great guest and more fun. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2009.
You have been listening to the Para X Radio Network.